If you have a grid-tied solar system on your house or business using Enphase microinverters like this one, then you will have somewhere in your installation, usually inside your home, an Enphase gateway. This is the communications hub which sends the data from your system up to the cloud and then into your app, and allows you to monitor everything that's going on with your system. So in this video, we're going to take you through step by step exactly all the features of that monitoring system, how it works, and we're going to do our very best to answer the questions that we get most frequently from our valued customers. My name is Roger Sherman. We are Ecocentro. Welcome to our video. When navigating in the app or on the web-based version of the software, you'll notice at the bottom of the screen there are 4 icons. These are status, energy, array, and menu. Starting on status, we get a general status page, and what you'll notice in the top left-hand side is that this in particular system is normal, it's on grid. Here's the date, it was updated 2 minutes ago. This system has batteries, and we have the state of charge of the batteries. We'll come back to more battery information later on in the video. In the middle here, we have what's gone on so far in the day. So here we're at about 11:30 in the morning. So this is a sort of summary of what's happened today. This is useful, but it's not as useful, in my opinion, as the next icon, which is energy. Now, this is today. So again, we've only got data up until now, okay? If we were to go back one day, we'll get a complete day image of data. And so I think this is the easier screen on which to explain what's going on. I'm just for the moment going to take away the battery information because not all of you have batteries, and then we're going to come back to that later on in the video, okay? So at the top here we have a summary. In the middle, right front and center, is this particular client in this 24-hour period from midnight to midnight used 34 kilowatt hours, and interestingly enough, her system produced 33.4 kilowatt hours. So pretty even Stevens. Actually what happens is it was a net import from CFE, from the grid, into the system. So, she used 2.3 kilowatt hours from CFE that day. And the reason for that is about 1.9 kilowatts were put into her battery system. Now, to explain the graphics, these little orange bars represent consumption. They're below the line. And the blue lines are solar production. They're above the line, okay? And each one of these represents 15 minutes in time. Okay, so if we randomly go to 11:30 to 11:45, the production was 5 kilowatts, the consumption was 2.9 in that 15-minute period. So the other thing to understand is that the longer the period of time we look at, the more relevant it becomes. So across the top here, we have different periods of time that we can look at. Those are day, week, month, year, and lifetime, okay? So if we were to go to the week view, it will go to the current week, and then we can use the arrows to go back and forth. A month is obviously even more relevant. Let's go to a full month, which in this case, August 2024. And what we see here is basically the layout of the information is exactly the same. In the middle, we have 931.6 kilowatt hours were used. And one thing to watch for is that the way Enphase works this is as soon as you go over 999.9 kilowatt hours, it automatically jumps the scale to megawatt hours. A megawatt hour is 1,000 kilowatt hours. So just be careful of that because it rounds it off. So in this case, we had a production of 1 megawatt hour. We had consumption of 931.6. So the net result with the grid in this time was 30.5 kilowatt hours were exported to the grid. So in other words, if this was the billing period, CFE would owe the client 30.5 kilowatt hours. Okay, if we go back another month, you'll notice similar result here. I'm trying to find a month where there was a little bit more consumption than production. Here was one. And if we go back a little bit further, there was a production issue here. We'll talk about those in a second. And if we look as we go back, we can then go to the entire year and see where we stand on the year, which is actually very relevant when it comes to CFE, because the trick with any grid-tied system is you want to maintain a level below the rate, which would put you into the higher rate with CFE. Now, if you're in the 1B tariff, which basically applies to everyone from Playa del Carmen down to Tulum, which is a big swath of our clients. If you're lucky enough to live in Puerto Morelos or in Cancun, you're in the 1D tariff, which the numbers are different. But in the 1B, B for boy, basically you do not want to be using more than 13.3 kilowatt hours net from CFE over a 1 year period. Because if you do that, that will get you into the higher tariff, which we want to avoid. Okay, so the next icon at the bottom here is array, and we're going to click into that. And similar to what we saw with energy, where we have day, month, year, lifetime, etc., what we can look at is how the array is producing at a per panel, or in this case per microinverter level. So if we were to go to the day and we were to see wildly different numbers, here there's a very small difference between the best producing panel or the best producing microinverter at 2.02 and the lowest at 1.93 actually. So that's very little difference indeed. So nothing to worry about there. If we were to see a microinverter or a panel with a massively different amount of production, then we would be thinking, okay, is there perhaps some shade? Is there a problem with the panel? Has it been soiled? Has it been damaged by a projectile or something? Or is there an issue? And that issue could be with the panel, with the connector, or with the microinverter itself. So these are important things to keep an eye on, and it's one of the huge benefits of the Enphase system is that you can look at it on a per panel or per microinverter basis, far superior to string inverters where you can only look at the whole string. The last of the four icons is menu, and I hasten to add that this is slightly different because obviously we're the managers, so we have hundreds and hundreds of sites that we can look at here. But what I would ask clients to do individually, if you go into account and you go into manage your notifications, it's very self-explanatory. Here I can't change it because I'm the manager, but basically you can go in here and you can turn on or off the notifications that you get from the system, and we're gonna give our suggestions in terms of what we think you should activate and turn off in this little section. Okay. Coming back out and we go into system, this is a really nice feature and it's called devices. And when we click on the devices, we can see all the devices that are on this system and the fact that they're all normal, which is in this case a really good thing. So we can click on any of those with a little arrow and it will show you your limited warranty, how long that is good for, in this case up until 2035, and everything is green there, which is obviously what we want to see. Again, those with battery have some extra features that we'll talk about a little bit later in this video. Okay, if you've been paying lots of attention, you'll notice I've moved the image of me, the video of me, over to the center of the screen. And this is because we're now back on the status page. But Enphase have this really great option called Live Status, and it's in the top right on the status screen. So we're going to click on that right now, and it takes a little bit of time, but it's going to do this connection, which is a live connection. Now that obviously takes a little bit of power, and that's why they limit it to 15 minutes. If you're obsessed with this, you want to watch it for longer. As soon as it disconnects itself after 15 minutes, you can open another session. But here we can see exactly what's happening on this system, and right now as I look out my window, this system is located probably about 25 minutes away from where I am, but it's producing 5 kilowatts. The house is only consuming, well, it just went up, but between 0.5 and 1.2 kilowatts. So the rest of that power is being exported to the grid. Now, there are lots of ways to use this live status page, but one of my favorite features is if you are at home and you walk around and you can do things like turn air conditionings on and off, and therefore you can calculate exactly how much power a particular piece of equipment is using, which could be really useful. I actually had a client recently found out that one of his air conditioners was faulty, so even though it was cooling, it was using about 3 times more power than it should have. So he was able to address that issue and stop what would have been a potential leak of energy, if you like, over a long period of time. If he didn't have this system, he wouldn't have found out until he got a big bill. And even then, he might have just thought he'd consumed a lot in the period. So this is a great feature if you want to see what's going on live in your house in terms of energy consumption. Absolutely wonderful. I love it. Okay, we're now going back on the energy screen, and as promised, I said I was going to show you what these toggles do. Okay, so the most common toggles to have on are produced and consumed. Right next to that is one called imported and exported, and what you'll notice if I toggle that on, this screen gets this graphic rather gets very, very busy and difficult to understand. Basically, grey above the line means it's power being imported from the grid, and grey below the line means it's power being sent back to the grid. I think this is easier to see and to understand if we turn off the others. Okay, so there you can see that we've been consistently bringing in power from the grid, which is obviously very normal in a grid-tied system at night, and then in the day we've been exporting power. And again, as we move, you'll notice that the data up here actually moves according to the 15-minute periods, and if we bring our mouse up, then we see the whole day. Okay, so my advice is most of the time leave produced and consumed on, but I would toggle this one off because it just gets too busy. Now, if you have batteries, I think it's really great to have this on. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back in time on this client's monitoring to see a period where the grid went down, and actually we didn't have to go very far. Okay, so what these little G's show is the grid state changed to off grid. That was at 7:27 a.m. and then it went back on at 7:33. Now this client wouldn't have even noticed that happened because it was just done such a smooth switch over, and it was a time where the consumption was 1.6. Well, the panels were able to produce 2.3. So we were actually not even discharging our battery at that time. We were just using the grid. Now later on that afternoon, it went off grid at 12:21 and it went on grid at 12:28. Again, very little consumption at the time, so not much happened. And then it went off grid. So this was not a great day for the grid. It went off at 1:15, and here's a very interesting thing. You'll notice we had 1.3 of consumption. The state of charge was 99%. Okay, so basically what was happening is the system was making enough power to cover the consumption, which the consumption at that particular period was very low. So there was very little battery used. Here we can see the state of charge of the battery, and at 2:25 the grid came back on and everything went back to normal. Let's go back in time and see if we can find a slightly longer outage so we can see okay, so here's one on the 12th. The grid went out at 7:35 p.m. And here you begin to notice, of course, at 7:35 there was no sun, so there was no solar power to be made. So we're relying solely on batteries, and basically it went down to about 79% state of charge by about 10:45, and then at 11ish, 10:54 in fact, the grid came back on. So we used, we went from 99% to 79% state of charge, and then the grid came back on. And this system, we have it charging from the grid as well. And the reason we do that is there's no tax problem like there would be in California, for example, of charging the batteries from the grid. And the advantage is, if there'd been another outage later on, we'd have started that outage with full batteries. So that's the advantage of using that particular option. Okay, I've just moved the video screen, or the picture-in-picture again for an important reason, which is what I want to show you. So let's just look at the year of this particular client, and basically that's the whole of 2024. So up until today, 23rd of September. This client is basically only used from CFE 665 kilowatt hours, which is very little. If we were to divide that by the days, we're probably talking, about 2 kilowatt hours a day, something like that. Remember that you get approximately about 6 kilowatt hours a day subsidized from CFE when you're in the 1B tariff. So that's a good thing. However, if we scroll down a little bit, what you'll notice is we only have a energy independence of 50%. Now, some clients get really upset about that. They go, hey, I've produced 7.5 megawatts. I've only used 7.6 megawatts. How come my grid independence is 50%? Well, the reason for that is we have imported from the grid 3.8 megawatts. Okay, so there is a dependence on the grid. This particular client could be on self-consumption with her batteries. What we're doing is we're keeping the batteries for full backup, and that's going to be in a whole nother video about how to use your batteries and what system you choose to use. But batteries can be used for backup, can be used to create savings in particular time of day, or you can actually use it for self-consumption. Now here, while we're in the menu section, if you click on account and go to your personal information, you can put in, you can change your phone, you can change your email, and you can change your password, and you can also change the language, and you can change between metric and imperial units. Once you've done any of those changes, you must hit save changes for it to take effect. So I think you'll agree with me, the Enphase monitoring is extremely powerful, very easy to use, and provides you with a ton of information. So explore, have fun with it. If you have any questions, please contact us directly, or drop us a comment below, and we'll be happy to answer those questions. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you found this useful. If you want more content like this, subscribe to the channel. We have lots of videos that we upload talking about a whole variety of topics. So we appreciate you. Please give us a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.